Hello, Hoboken. We are live from my kitchen in Brooklyn, where I will teach you the sweet, sweet art pizza making. Hello, Hoboken. I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to get settled and get ready. We have a whole bunch of ingredients laid out, and I'm going to teach you pizza making from scratch. Really simple, elegant, and delicious. So, get your act together. If you're going to be making dough along with us, there should be a recipe elsewhere on the Hoboken Facebook page, but I'll leave, you know what I'll do? I'm going to give you the recipe right now, and then we'll talk about it as we go, but I want to give everybody a couple of minutes to settle down and get ready for this. Write that down. We'll discuss in 60 seconds. All right, everybody in Hoboken, if you are planning on playing along, we're going to do this in 2 stages. We're making pizza from scratch. We're going to start off by making the dough, and then once we have the dough, we're going to shift gears and make the pizza. Now, if you're doing it at home along with us, you won't be able to make the dough and then make the pizza right away. I have dough that I made yesterday for this exact occasion. Right here. And after about, I don't know, in about 20, 25 minutes from now, you will also have dough that looks like this. Well, almost looks like this. It'll look like a baby version of this. It needs time to mature, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But for right now, what you need to know is we'll make dough, and then we're going to skip ahead so that if you make dough along with us, you can use that dough tomorrow and stretch it just the way we're going to do in this video. And you can come back to this video. It's not going anywhere. Going to be on the Hoboken Public Library's Facebook page. So we're going to get into it and start making some dough. Let me just prop up the screen just so you have a better view. By the way, to prop up the screen, I'm using pizzeria dough trays. So that's exciting. All right, this is cozy. So, dough making. First step, we're gonna need water. We're gonna do things in the order that they are in this list. And don't worry, I will be listing things as we go, and then we'll also type some things in. And I know we got people from the Hoboken Public Library on board right now with us. They might end up writing it into the chat, into the comments area. If you have questions as we go, write it into the comments area. That's our home, and I will be watching. So any questions you have, just let me know. Let's start off with the basics, okay? We're making dough, and I'm gonna make the dough by using a kitchen scale. I almost forgot the most important thing, safety. I'm popping a hat and an apron. In fact, it's a very special apron, because it's an apron from the pizza school where I learned how to make pizza for the first time. Pizza a Casa, or now Pizza School. It's a place in New York City in the Lower East Side, a small business that today is celebrating their 10th anniversary. And so to honor them, we wear the Pizza School, Pizza a Casa apron. All right, so let's get right into it. Flour, salt, water, yeast, and oil. Starting off with water, Real simple. I'm weighing everything. You can use cups and spoons, but weighing everything is going to be a little bit more even and more accurate. So I'm going to give you measurements, and then we'll settle into things. For the water, I'm doing 230 grams. That's about a cup of water. But the reason that I'm weighing everything is it's much more accurate than if I was using volume measurements. So to get to 230, I'm almost there. Yes, 230, right on the nose. Check it out. 230. Once I put the bowl on there, I zeroed out the scale so that it's ignoring the bowl. Great. Next step is I'm going to toss in my flour. You can use whatever flour you want. I really like bread flour, but I have a lot more all-purpose flour than I do bread flour. I don't know if you know this. Grocery stores don't all have a lot of flour, but I have some all-purpose, so I'm going to use that mixed with some bread flour. And I'm going to go for a total of 350 grams of water, which is about 2.5 cups, or rather 350 grams of flour, which is about 2.5 cups of flour. So I zero out my scale. And since I'm going to use a mix of this, and I know I want to get up to 350, let's do 175 of each, because then it'll be half and half. It'll be nice and easy. So I just pour this in here until I get 175. Oh, right on the money. When you have flour at home, you got to keep it sealed. I like to use Wiener dog clips. They work the best. Next up, that bread flour. I'm going to do 175 of this. I know we're going to hit it on the nose because it's going to get to 350. Ooh. 7, 8, 9, 349, 350. Yes. You can use all-purpose. You can use all bread flour. It will change the texture a little bit. Bread flour is stronger than all-purpose flour, so it's going to be a little drier. If you use all-purpose, it's going to be a little more wet. Whatever. Live your own life. Make your decisions. We need yeast. I know yeast is not so easy to come by these days. I'm use very little of it. I'm going to use rapid rise. I'm using this instant yeast. You can use active yeast. That's fine. You can use fresh yeast. Somebody emailed me and they said, hey, I'm going to be hanging out on the Hoboken Public Library's Facebook page. I want to use fresh yeast. Awesome. I'm way all about that. Oh, I'm sorry. By the way, Glory, I'm sorry. When I said Pizza a Casa, what I mean is their website is pizzaschool.com. We all know Casa is house. Come on, give us a little credit. But yeah, their website is pizzaschool.com. They changed the name of the business a few years ago, but this was the OG, so that's why we're doing it. Anyway, I'm using the instant yeast. It's the same exact stuff as active, but active dry yeast has a bunch of dead yeast cells on it, so you have to use a little bit more of that. So I'm going to use 1 gram of this. If you're really measuring really carefully, it's 1.25 grams of the active dry yeast, but it's okay. Also, in terms of yeast, if anybody wants to get talking about sourdough, we can talk about sourdough cultures. We can teach you how to make your own yeast right now. I'll show you. This is a sourdough starter. It's just half water, half flour. You mix some water and flour together, equal parts. You let it sit out for a couple of days. Then every day you start adding more flour and water, more flour and water. After 5-6 days, you take about 100 grams out, and to that 100 grams, you add 100 of flour and 100 of water, and then it will, and then you're good to go. I put a rubber band when I feed it, so I know where the top of it is. Then I can see how far it's grown. This is in the fridge, and it's in the fridge at its maximum potential. So that means that it's all good to go. But I already made dough with this yesterday, so it's no big whoop. Let's put 1 gram of yeast in here. 1 gram of yeast is basically a palm full of yeast. See if I can get it. See if I can nail it. About that much yeast. Wow! It's 2 grams. Oops. Looks like my palm full is a little bit big. I'm going to try to excavate a little bit of it out of there. Luckily, I've got a pointy spoon. I'm taking some flour. Now, it'll be okay. It just means that this is going to rise up a little faster than I'd want it to, but that's all right. So, using my hand, I'm just going to stir together all the flour and the yeast. I'm not dipping it into the water yet. I'm trying to get all the flour mixed up first because I got 2 different kinds of flour. I want them to become buddies before they get into the water. And you'll notice I got water in there first. The reason I did that is because if I start with flour and then I add the water, it doesn't absorb as quickly. So this is easier. And okay, so we got a question about using cups and spoons. The reason that I'm giving you this in weight is because it's so much easier. All you need is a scale. You don't need to wash a bunch of silly spoons. It's also way more accurate. So for the dough, for the water, it's about 1 cup. For the flour, it's about 2.5 cups. For the yeast, it's about 1/4 teaspoon. We're going to deal with the salt and the oil after this. But now it's time to mix, right? Using my hands, or I'm going to use a spatula just because I don't want to have to stop and wash my hands off every 5 seconds. There, got a little spatula. I just start in the middle and start to mix things together. When you're doing pasta, you start with the flour and then you add the egg in the inside or the water into the inside, depending on what pasta you're making. But with pizza dough, I like to start with the water and then add the flour. So I think I may have gotten most of the questions that have been coming up. But let me know if there's something that I'm leaving out, and I'll make sure to get to it. Cups and spoons, using a scale. If you don't have a scale, get a scale. They're like $10. I've got an extra one right over here. I'll mail it to you if you give me your address. It kind of works. It's a little bit broken. Okay, great. This is mostly, the flour is mostly absorbed into the water. We got a little bit on the sides we got to deal with. And for that, we get involved with the hands. And it's a real simple motion of just a sweep around the side of the bowl and I pull it back in. Really, it couldn't be any easier. That's why, pizza was never a high-end food. So the whole point is that it's easy to make at home. Pasta, it's all technique. It's not so much about using fancy stuff. I'm using, store-bought flour, nothing fancy. Now, we're only looking to get this incorporated a little bit. I'm not really looking to fully knead this yet because this only has flour and water and yeast. There's no salt and there's no oil in this yet. We're not even really kneading this yet. We're just mixing. By the way, I'm using my hand for this and not a dough mixer because I don't have a dough mixer. If I had a dough mixer, maybe I would use it. But honestly, I don't like to clean stuff like that. So it's just easier for a small batch of dough. Just use our hand. This is a 2 pizza batch. Yeah, could we make more pizzas? Sure, we could double this. It's no problem. But, we're just going to make a two pie batch. Real simple. Okay, I'm done for now. Let's get these big chunks off the hand. Give a little rinse. But I want to let this hang out for about 10 to 20 minutes. Probably not going to let it hang out that long right now because we got a lot to do. So when this sits out to rest, you could cover it. If you're in a really dry area, you should cover it. If it's really humid out, you don't really need to cover it. The humidity in this room right now is 31%. It's not high. I'm going to cover it. I like to use a shower cap. Great. Let's let that hang out while we work on some sauce. Now, this gets controversial. We're not going to cook our sauce. Well, we're going to cook one of our sauces. See, I want to make 2 pizzas for you, and I want to make them different. I don't want to do the same thing for both. So when you're making Neapolitan pizza, and most pizza from pizzerias that you visit, it's usually an uncooked dough, or an uncooked sauce, rather. It's just tomato. See, look. This is a can of whole peeled tomatoes. This is a can of crushed tomatoes. You've probably used these before. This is nothing new. When you buy the whole peeled tomato, they're whole tomatoes, and you crush them up with your hands, and you salt them, and then you're good to go. 1 can, 4 grams of salt. And that's it. It doesn't even have to cook. You just let it sit. If you're using crushed tomatoes, it's a little bit of a sweeter product. And for this, it's a little chunky. You don't have to do anything. You can add a little bit of salt. All depends on the sodium. This is 85 milligrams, no problem. If it's at 120 to 140, that's when you have to start to reduce your salt a little bit. But for this, I'm gonna make 1 sauce that's just tomato, 1 sauce that we're gonna cook. Question just came up about flavoring dough with herbs. Yes, if you're gonna flavor your dough with herbs, I would not do it at this point. I would wait until the next stage. When we add salt, that's when you can start to really get involved with adding herbs. The problem with adding them too early is that it'll get in the way of gluten formation. So gluten formation means that the dough is getting strong and it can trap a bunch of air. If you want a strong dough like that, I would not add the herbs till later. But hey, we can put some oregano into one of these. That could be no problem. Let's see, what do I want to use for my sauce? Let's just use a little guy like this, because I'm going to be doing only 1 pizza with this sauce. It's really not going to be a big deal. And again, I'm doing 2 sauces, 1 that's uncooked and 1 that's yes cooked. All right. So for the one that's going to get cooked, we'll chop up a little bit of shallot just because I got some. So this is going to go in first. I'm going to do like a really simple some oil, a clove of garlic, some shallot. We'll let that hang out for a minute. Then we'll dump in the tomatoes. We'll herb it a little bit. There's a really thrilling scene happening down here. It's just me cutting a shallot, if you really want to see it. These are going to be great because they're nice and sweet. I also like them a lot as a pizza topping. If you've never had shallot and pepperoni together, you really should. It's a new life. Wow. These cloves of garlic are gigantic. This is bigger than I expected it might be. We might just use a half a clove, actually. So, remember that pizza sauce and pasta sauce are not the same thing. Most pizza sauce is totally uncooked. This pizza sauce is only going to be a little bit of cooked because we're going to make sort of like a pan pizza. Alright, I'm mincing up that garlic. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this when I'm so hungry. Oh, I don't know what you guys have been eating in isolation, but when you make this pizza, it is going to be a triumph. By the way, you can be ordering pizza. I'm sure you all know that. There's a ton of pizzerias in Hoboken that I love. I think Hoboken has 40 pizzerias, or just over 1 square mile. That's insane. All right, start up the sauce party. So I'm doing just like medium heat, nothing crazy. And I'm starting it off, a little bit of oil. Then when that's hot, I'm gonna toss in this garlic. And by the time that's rocking, we'll be ready with the shallots. Beauty. All right, let's get that garlic going. Beautiful. Oh, yes. We'll get the shallot a little bit smaller so we can really blend in. Just going to use half of this because I think half of it might be a good pizza topping for later. Remember, we're doing this while the dough is hydrating. Somebody just say WD-40? That's fine. All right, we're ready for the tomato. And who said smell-o-vision? I agree. So those onions were really getting rocking fast. The garlic, it went to the edge of almost burning. It was starting to brown a little bit. Had to really recall it. So the tomato that I'm using is, I took whole peeled tomatoes and I separated the juice from the guts, just because then it's easier to freeze it. But I'm re-adding the guts in here. Now at this point, this is where we're adding dry herbs. So we got to let them hang out and hydrate, just like the flour has to hydrate that with that water. We need the dry herbs in there now. Oregano, of course, the dry herb of kings and queens. Pizza that I grew up eating in New Jersey was all about oregano and garlic. So that's what we got going on, is oregano, garlic, shallot, oil, and some Jersey tomatoes. Cool. Leave it on low because we got work to do. It has not been 20 minutes, of course, but we don't have that kind of time in our day. So we're going to get back to this dough a little bit earlier than I normally would have done. It's okay. We're all going to make it. Let's put this starter away. Remember, we talked about sourdough starter before? 50% water, 50% flour, and then give it some time. That's it. Back in dough land, so while the tomato is cooking down, back into this business, we're going to add salt. Now, over the last few minutes, this is really hydrated nicely. It's starting to get even stretchy. That happens over time. That's good. The longer you leave this, up to like maybe 2 hours, then the more hydrated it will get, which just means that it's going to combine itself more easily. So we're going to add in salt. We're doing like 8 to 9 grams of salt. Once again, I keep giving you weight measurements because they're better than using cups and spoons. But it's just under 1 teaspoon. So I'll grab 1 teaspoon. Well, I found my half teaspoon. That's easier anyway. And we're going to add it in parts, okay? Remember, just under 1 teaspoon, and I'm working with a half a teaspoon right now, so that's fine. And we're going to weigh it at the same time just to make sure we're really on it. Great. Half. Beautiful. A little spillage, but that's okay. And then 6, 7, 8. Oh, we got an entire teaspoon out of this, even a little bit more. See, if we were doing it with spoons, we wouldn't have had it exact. There we go. 8 grams, and I'm going to give it a little bit more than 8. I'm going to give it almost 9, just because I like salty. Plus, since I know that I used a little too much yeast in this, when we measured, I just kind of tossed it in. It was a little too much. The salt is going to slow it down. So you can always balance things out. You can use cold water, or you can stick it in the fridge faster if you want it to slow down. If you want it to speed up how it rises, then you can do it. You can use warm water. But you don't really want it to speed up. You want it to rise slowly, because that's going to give you better alcohol production, and that'll give you better flavor. So at this point, we got salt. I'm kind of turning it over just so I can coat the whole outside with it. And then we just start folding it over itself. Oh yeah, Kristen's asking, what if you have kosher salt? You have to look up on Morton's website, salt company, and they've got like a translation for kosher salt and sea salt, and because some of the salts are saltier than others, and also if you're using a different grind, like if you're using coarse, one tablespoon or 1 teaspoon of coarse is not the same as 1 teaspoon of fine. So I always try to use fine sea salt. And the key with the salt is you want to look on the ingredients, and you want to have only 1 ingredient, sea salt. The other stuff that they put in there are like anti-caking agents, like calcium silicate. It's just to keep it from clumping, but really you don't need to clump up. It's going to be okay. So let's see. Grace is asking a question. She wants to know, have I ever made a pizza in a shape other than round, like a star or a heart or a monkey? Grace, I have. And you know what? Maybe we can make a star-shaped pizza here together today. What do you think? If anybody else wants a star-shaped pizza, let me know. And I think we'll just do that. All right, we're ready to add oil. I'm doing 5 grams of oil, which is really just about a splash. The best way to describe it. But again, look, I'm back on the scale, and all I have to do is five. There we go. I can be exact every time. Now I'm adding the salt and the oil after I let the dough sit for a little bit, because I want the yeast to activate. Salt is going to slow down the yeast. So I want the yeast to activate before I add the salt. If you add the salt and the yeast at the same time, it's going to slow down your fermentation process, and it might even kill off some of the yeast. So while we want to slow it down in the refrigerator, we don't want to kill off the yeast. So now we got oil. Oh, I'll show it to you. We got oil and salt. So everything is in this mix, and I'm just folding it over itself. And we're going to make a special pizza for Grace. We're going to make a star-shaped pizza. So don't worry, even though this dough is going to take a day to rise, I have dough that I made yesterday, so we are going to be able to use that and make pizza, and you get to watch me eat it. If you have pizza at home, or if you bought some dough from a local Hoboken pizzeria, then you can play along as well. We'll see. So this is still technically mixing because we haven't yet combined all the oil. We'll know that the oil is done combining once we stop feeling it. So the oil was about 5 grams, and that's just like one little splash of oil. If you want to measure it with spoons, it's about a tablespoon. That'll get you there. And I'm just using oil to make this a little tender and make it a little easier to work. You'll notice, by the way, that I'm still in the bowl. When we knead the dough, we'll come out of the bowl. Flour, salt, water, yeast, oil. No sugar. If we add sugar, then the pizza is going to end up feeling very heavy in your belly. So we don't want to do that. We want this to be kind of really light and airy. So the reason that the sugar makes it feel heavier is that the yeast feeds on the sugar to make the dough rise, but it leaves behind a lot of complex sugars, starch and carbohydrates. Flour is just made of starch and carbohydrates. If you were with us when we did, I think it was last Friday, we did a class called Demystifying Pizza Ingredients, and I milled some flour. And you could see that when you mill flour down, you're really breaking it up. It's like one little baby seed becomes a bunch of dust. And that dust has a bunch of bran, and it has some white powder. And the white powder is the really soft stuff. The bran is the harder stuff. I actually like to make some of my dough with a little bit of whole wheat flour. And that has some bran in it. Great. So this feels pretty combined. Next up is the really fun part. Yeah, it smells good. Okay, the really fun part. I'm going to dust off my counter a little bit. Just a little bit of flour. Oh yeah, when I said dust, I was telling Grace about how flour's made. Flour is just a bunch of starch, carbohydrates, bran, germ, endosperm. But to simplify it, I just said dust. Like this, powder. Just a little bit of flour, not too much. Here's how we knead dough. I pull it a little away from myself. I pull it back, and then I use my hand to push. Then I turn it, pull it back, and push. I'm never ripping it. I'm just pushing through it. So, turn it, back, push. When I turn it and fold it over, the goal of my right hand now is to push this into the bottom, never to rip through it. By the way, I hear the sauce bubbling away over there. Oh, I'll slow down a little bit. This is the kneading. I'll show you from this angle. I'll slow it down. So when you're using a dough mixer, this is what your mixer is doing for you. But you put on some good music and it's like you get into the rhythm of it. Or you just listen to the music of the sauce cooking. It's just simmering. It's like a little bubbly simmer. So how do you know when you're done? Well, it's when you look at it and it's not rough. It's going to be smooth. And it's going to bounce back. Also, you know it's done if you pick it up like this and it doesn't rip. So Jane is asking, if sauce is bubbling, it can't be olive oil, right? Yeah, there's a little bit of oil in the sauce, just on the bottom of the pan for the garlic and the shallot, but it's mostly water because it's the tomato. So I think what you're referring to is the fact that the bubbling is boiling water, which it absolutely is. Wow, and Laura is playing some Italian music at home. That's good. Or I don't know if it's Italian music. Maybe it's some Motown. That's really, really good for dough making. Okay, check this out. I'm going to do a fun experiment. Right now, you pick the dough up and it rips. I'm going to give it about a minute to rest, and then we'll try it again. In the meantime, we're going to look at the sauce. Let's go for a ride. Here's the sauce, and it's simmering nicely. I'm actually going to take it off the heat because I don't want to reduce it too much. Smells awesome. We made this during this class right now. This is not pre-made. Nothing's pre-made today except for 2 balls of dough. Cool. All right, we're back into it now. Let's take a look at this. Oh, wait. So Anna Marie is saying, my dough is looking a bit dry and broken. What did I do wrong? Oh, I wish you can you upload a picture of your dough into the comments right now? And Kirsten is saying, what if it sticks to your hand? Yeah, it should stick to your hand. That's okay. It's gonna get better over a little bit of time as it starts to hydrate. Trust me, it's gonna work out okay. Now, if it looks too dry, let me know if you were weighing it or if you were using the cups and spoons. Because sometimes if you use a cup and you pack it in, then you're using too much flour. If it really feels too dry, put a little water on your hands, like in the sink. Here, I'll show you, like this. The water on my hand, if I use that to start kneading the dough, then it will incorporate into the dough. So take a look at this. Remember we said we were doing an experiment where we walked away for a little bit? Now when I come back, it doesn't break as fast. It still breaks, but not as fast. That means that this dough is coming together nicely. Okay, oh, it feels good. I have a little bit of water on my hand from that sink. That's okay. I guess because I make dough all the time, so it's not going to get too wet. I'll control that. If it feels like it's too sticky, use a little bit more flour. If it feels like it's too dry, put some water on your hand. But be careful, because the more flour and water you do, that's going to put it out of proportion with the salt and the yeast and the oil. So Grace, I hope you're still sticking around, because we're going to make that star pizza, and it's going to be ridiculous. I mean, in a good way. It's going to be good. What other questions coming up? Yeah, hey, to anybody just joining us, we are making pizza dough, and then we're going to make some actual pizza in a few minutes, maybe in about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less. I think it could be closer to 7 minutes. Hold on, there's some schmutz on my, it's tomato. Yeah, it's okay. We'll survive. So the dough is now starting to feel much smoother. Remember how before I was saying that we're going to know that it's done when it's smooth and when we poke it and it bounces back? And also if we pull it and it comes out for like a little sheet. By the way, we have a couple of options today. Let's take another vote on something. Oh, how long will fresh dough last in the fridge? It kind of matters what the temperature of the water you used was, or how much yeast. But using this recipe that I'm giving you right now, 1 to 3 days. 3 days. On the 4th day, it's probably pushing it. But I made this dough recipe yesterday, and I'll show you what the dough looks like. Let's vote on how we're going to cook the pizza. Because now that we're making a star-shaped pizza, it's making me second guess the way that I was going to cook it. Should we use my special pizza oven that you haven't even seen yet? Or should we use a frying pan and do it just on the stovetop? Let's vote. Yes, if you want a written recipe, Car, look on the Hoboken Public Library Facebook page. I posted it there. I think it's on the event for this class right now. So it's there all in writing, and I'll show it to you again on the screen, and at some point maybe we can just type it out. You know what? While you're voting on if we should use my special pizza oven, getting a little more water, special pizza oven or stovetop, I'm going to tell you the recipe for this again. And Laura, if you're around, if you don't mind maybe writing it in the comments, maybe that'll help people out. Okay, so by the way, when we say oven, we're talking about a special pizza oven. You haven't, not this. This is beautiful, but it's not my special pizza oven. So Laura, here it is. 230 grams or 1 cup of water. Sorry, I had to turn on, everybody's voting for the super cool oven, so we're going to do that. That means that I have to take the plant off the top of the oven, though, so that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, so what was I just saying? Oh, the recipe. 230 grams or 1 cup of water, 350 grams or 2.5 cups of flour, 1 gram or 1/4 teaspoon of instant yeast, or if you have active yeast, it can be just under a half a teaspoon. And then 9 grams or 1 teaspoon of salt, just over a teaspoon actually, and 5 grams or like a splash, like almost a tablespoon of oil, and that's it. So now listen, since we're going to use the super cool oven, it's not going to be like your normal oven. But I'll tell you, when you're using your regular oven, if you have a pizza stone, set it to the highest temperature you can possibly get. It's going to be around 500 degrees, I hope. And then it'll work like that. But if you're going to do it with a pizza stone, you have to leave the stone in the oven for about 45 minutes so it preheats for a long time and gets really, really hot. So if you're using active dry yeast, how long are you going to wait to add the salt and the oil? After you let the dough sit for about 20 minutes, just the flour and the water and the yeast, that's when you can add your active. You don't have to activate active yeast. You can, and it's kind of nice. Just a little bit of warm water, a little tiny pinch of sugar, but it should work as long as you haven't had it for 100 years. By the way, the yeast should last 6 to 12 months. 12 months if it's in the freezer, 8 months if it's in the refrigerator, 4 to 6 months if it's sitting out. So let's see what we got. Oh, Kirsten got the pizza making kit from Tony Baloney's yesterday. Great. Okay, so you can use that if it's sitting in the fridge. You want to let it get to room temperature about 2 hours before you use it. If you're using a jelly roll pan, then you don't need to preheat that. For that, I would put some oil in the pan, let the dough sit in that pan as it gets to room temperature, and then you can come by and push it out to spread it into the shape of the pan, or as a circle, whatever you want to do. If you're going to make pizza with that kit, the Tony Baloney's kit, if you have a pizza stone, you should be preheating the stone now, and then you can use it in about 35, 45 minutes. Let's see. Susan's saying, how do you cook the pizza if you don't have a special oven or a pizza stone or a huge pan to cook on the stove? Well, then you can use, I'm going to show you a version of doing it with a frying pan. I'll show you, we'll do the fancy special oven, then we'll do a frying pan so it's actually useful for you. How many slices of pizza slices can you can cut? I don't understand the question. But let me know. You can cut as many as you want. I personally feel like I don't like to, if it's this big a pizza, 12-inch pizza, 6 slices. It's bigger, 8 slices. All right, here we go. This is called the window pane test to find out if the dough is ready. Now we can get it kind of large. It still rips though. So that means just a little bit more kneading. This whole time that we've been talking, I have not been really kneading the whole time. That sound that you might hear in the background, that's the fancy pantsy oven. Again, don't worry about it. You don't have a fancy pantsy oven, it's okay, but we gotta make Grace a star-shaped pizza. Okay. It's turning way more smooth now. When you get bored of this, just let it sit. And you notice that now I can't really fold it over itself very much because it's getting stronger, it's getting tighter. All right. I think we're pretty good. All right. Ready for the next step, the final step. Now this is admittedly a little slightly undermixed, but I'm okay with that. It'll be fine. I'm going to use it tomorrow. What temperature should you preheat a standard oven? Highest you can get it. The hotter you can get it, the better it'll come out. And it depends on what style you like, crunchy or soft. But for most pizza, 500 degrees. Higher if you can get it. Beautiful. All right. Next step. Let's put this pizza into the fridge to rest. But the dough is one big dough ball, and this is actually 2 pizzas worth. So let's split it. You can store your dough in a bowl, whatever you want. I like to store it in something round so that it stays round. I use these little things. I don't remember who makes them. Every company makes these little things. But you gotta lubricate with a little bit of oil. Even the lid, just a little bit. Take your finger and you just smear around so that there's a little bit of a glaze. This is so that the dough doesn't stick to the inside of the container. A little bit of oil, just a little tiny bit. Doesn't even have to be good oil. It shouldn't be rancid, but you know what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be fancy. Next up, the dough ball. I'm going to use a dough scraper for this. You don't have to have one of these. You can use a knife. You can get plastic ones. Whatever. I'm using this because I want to use it when we make our star-shaped pizza. We're going to do that. Oh, when you're doing the oven, you're heating it up on the bake setting. You can use broil, but that's a more complicated situation. We can talk about that later. Here's the dough. Bounces back, and it's strong enough that I can start to pull it out. It rips, but again, I told you it's a little undermixed, and I'm okay with that. For this demonstration, I think we'll be okay. The next thing I do is cut it in half. Now, remember, I like weighing things, so I'm going to use my scale. I need somebody to do some math for me, please. 582. 582 grams. What's 582 divided by 2? I think it's 291. Well, let me know in the comments. Is it 291? Whoa. Way different. Oh, nobody's going to tell me if it's 291? Well, good news. Yeah, I know it's 291 because I just weighed it. Great. So these are both the same. Now, this is the part that people always mess up. And then you go to make your pizza and you wonder why it doesn't work that well. You have to form this into a ball. And you don't just do it by rolling it around. You take it smooth side up. See, this where I cut it is kind of funky. Smooth side up. And I roll it back into itself. And I smush it. Then I turn it. And I use my thumbs to roll it back into itself. Then I smush it. And I do this a few times until I see that the top of it is really smooth. This is a little dimple. But anyway, once it's done, I pinch the bottom. And I kind of poke that in there. And this is a dough ball. Once again, roll it back, smush it, roll it back, smush it. Keep on doing that until we have a nice and smooth top. And there it is. At this point, flour, salt, water, yeast, oil. Nothing else in there. It's vegan. It's vegetarian. Anybody can have it unless you're gluten-free. Why does it sometimes tear when making a dough ball? If you're too rough on it or if it hasn't been kneaded enough. If it tears, let it sit, walk away for 5 minutes, and when you come back, it'll be stronger. So I take my dough ball, and there it is. This is what it looks like today. This is what it's going to look like tomorrow. Let's compare them on the bottom. Not the bottom of my shelf, but compare that to. All those bubbles are because the yeast has eaten it up. It's fermented, and it's ready for action. I'm going to put these in the fridge, and then we're going to stretch, and we're going to make Grace a star-shaped pizza. Let's clean up the workspace a little bit. Okay, great. I'm not going to use my cooked sauce. Not yet. I'm going to use some just raw tomato so you can see it. Oh, the question is, can you over knead the dough? Absolutely, but it's harder to do that. If you can over knead it with a machine, but if you're doing it by hand, it's pretty tough to over knead. Okay. I'm going to do a little... I'm just adding some of my tomato. I crushed some tomatoes 2 days ago, but I split up the solids from the liquid. I just added some of the liquid back in. This is it. It's just crushed tomato and some salt. You don't have to freak out about the sauce. Just use good tomatoes. I know what you're thinking. How do I know if it's a good tomato? Taste it. That's it. Over kneading can make the dough tough, but once it relaxes, it should be okay. It's really hard to over knead by hand because you will, even 10, 15 minutes is fine. You just knead until you can pull it into a sheet that you can almost see through. What we just made together right now, I would have gone another 2 or 3 minutes, but you might have something to do with your day. I want to make sure that you get the full action of making the pizza. And also, I'm hungry, so I want to eat it. Great. Star-shaped pizza. Let's do it. We'll do the star-shaped pizza in the fancy oven, and then we'll do a non-star-shaped pizza on the stovetop, maybe with the broiler as well. It's not even preheated. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Where's the best place to get some mother? Go to a pizzeria. Just buy dough from a pizzeria and use that. Chop it in little bits, and that's that. Really, the best place is to make it yourself. Flour, water, equal parts. Mix it together. Let it sit out for a couple of days, and then start feeding it more flour and water. And then after 7 or 8 days, it'll be golden. My Instagram page has a story highlight that says starter. You can watch that. A couple of weeks ago, I did every day. We made a little bit of, we made the starter over the course of 9 or 10 days. If you have a pizza kit, here are the steps you can follow. Yes, absolutely. Now, if you're going to bake it in your oven, turn on your oven now. If you have a pizza stone, the stone should be in the oven. And actually, it probably should have had you turn it on before with the stone in it. If you have a sheet pan, you don't have to put the sheet pan in the oven. Why don't you tell me in the comments how you're going to be cooking your pizza, and then I'll be able to tell you what you should do. But if you're just using a regular oven, preheat it now. Right now, I'm really showing you how to stretch the dough. And I'm going to be doing 2 different methods. The first method is with flour, and the second method is going to be with oil. Here's my dough. It's got little specks in it because I used a little bit of a different flour that I'm just experimenting with. It smells awesome. When I stretch my dough, you use a little bit of flour on it just so you don't stick to it. I'm using semolina because I like it, and it won't burn in the oven. Some people like cornmeal. I don't really love that. If you're using a sheet pan and you have dough, here's what I think you should do. Watch how I stretch the dough, and then you should do it. Don't try to do it along with me, because I really want you to be able to pay attention to this. This is where people mess up a lot. They grab the dough and they squeeze it, and if you've squeezed your dough, game over. Bad news bears. This is the best way to do it. Just trust me. In my container or in your plastic bag, or however you got your dough, you're going to put a bunch of flour on it. You can coat it. Don't worry, we're going to knock off all the extra flour. So don't worry if it feels like there's too much on there. I've got it coated so that my hand won't stick to it. Then, without squeezing it, I turn it over, and I use my fingers to gently pull it away from the very, very edge. Gravity will help me out, and it will drop the dough right into the palm of my hand without me having to, there we go. Oh. That's it. Don't squeeze it. I know it's the hardest thing in the world to avoid that, but don't squeeze it. We treat the dough with respect. I coat the whole thing with the flour. Because when we start pressing it, there's no going backwards. You don't get a second chance. This is it. And that's why I'm asking you to just try to watch first, and then you can do it after. I promise it's going to be better. Oh, if you're doing it on the barbecue grill, Richard, yeah. If you're doing it on the grill, I like to I brush the dough with a little bit of oil, and then I put it right on the grill, and then I throw toppings on it after I've flipped it over. So I put it on the grill, let it start to bubble, flip it, then top it, but you're going to move fast. You cannot move slowly. Grace, this is a star-shaped pizza. Let's do it. From the center, I do not ever, not in the beginning, I do not push it out. Oh, Anna Marie, you were using cups and spoons. Next, I know. It's okay. That's when it starts to get uneven. Next time, don't worry. Or you can just add a little bit more water with your hands. You'll be fine. So we're not pushing it out. We're just pushing down. Really want you to get a good view of this. Moving it closer. Using my fingers, I push down in the center and I move my hand toward the outside, stopping about 1 finger's width from the edge. I'm sticking a little bit, so I'm going to use more flour. Press down, and then I stop. This is going to become my crust. Now, then I turn it over gently, and I push down in the center, and once again, stop by the edge. Now I'm going to turn it back onto the original side, and press down again. This time, coming back along and then back in the inside. I'm using the edge of my finger, not the fingertip, the edge. The Instagram is Scott's Pizza Tours. So if you want to learn how to make a starter or a mother or a biga or a poolish or any different pre-ferment, then you can go right there. It's really, really easy, okay? Very simple. Next step, I take a little bit more flour. I put a little bit more flour onto the table, and then I gently turn it, pushing against that outer wall gently. That's it. That's it. But since we're making a very special star-shaped pizza for Grace, this is where things get interesting. If you're going to make a normal person pizza, you can put sauce on it, then cheese, and then bake it. Or actually, I prefer to do cheese first and then sauce, and then I bake it. But when you're doing that, best way to do it is you put your sauce, well, if you're going to put sauce first, put the sauce in the center, use the bottom of the spoon to push it out in concentric circles. If you're going to use cheese first and sauce later, very light on the cheese and just sprinkle it around, okay? So, now we're going into star-shaped pizza territory. I'm actually going to flatten out the edge a little bit more. And stretch it a little tiny bit bigger. Okay, the next step is I'm going to use my scraper and I'm going to cut 6 notches. Six separate notches. Oh, you know what? I can cut more. Let's do 8 of them. Okay. We have 8 notches. Now, I'm going to take a little fresh mozzarella and I'm going to put a little bit of it in the middle of each section. Remember, this is to make a very special star-shaped pizza for Grace, even though she can't eat it because she's not sitting right in front of the pizza. I'm sorry, Grace. Okay, here's where it gets really fun. You pick up the sides, you form a little point. star shape. Next, let's do a little bit of tomato. A little bit more. Let's do a little bit of grana padano, really delicious cow's milk hard cheese from Italy. Now let's put a little bit of mozzarella on the top of this. A little mozz. Not too much. Basically a pizza margherita. And we'll finish it off with a little bit of oil. Next up, I get my peel. Now you can use you don't need to have a fancy peel like this. You can use like a cutting board or a big plate or whatever you need. Now to get it under here, this is a tough move, and I hope I don't mess it up. All right, Grace, this is a star-shaped pizza. I'm gonna put it into the oven, and then when I come back, we're gonna start working on a totally different pizza that we're gonna make on the stovetop. Star-shaped pizza. Okay, does everything make sense to everybody? I know we're doing a whole lot in a small amount of time. When you're spreading the dough, it'll take time for you to be able to stretch it really, really thin. So you don't want it to rip. That's when it rips, you can fold it over itself and pinch it, but you want to try to get it to. I try to get it to be like as thin as like a piece of cardboard, like corrugated cardboard, like a shipping container. That's to me feels like it's pretty good. You'll get thinner over time. Don't worry. Okay, let's talk about the fancy oven. So this is a fancy oven. This is made by a company called Breville, and it's a pizza oven. It's called the Pizzaiolo. Pizzaiolo is the pizza maker, and it gets to 750 degrees. So right now I have it at 700 on top, 625 on the bottom, so it's hot. So in my oven, it's going to take 2 or 3 minutes. In your oven, highest temperature you can get it, and it's going to bake in about 7 or 8 minutes. It may take a little longer if you haven't been heating up your oven long enough. And on a peat stone, it'll take less time. But it's as long as the oven is hot, you'll get something decent. If the oven's not hot enough, too soon. I saw a little bit of steam come out, and I got worried. But now we're okay. Anyway, if you're making it on a cookie sheet, then it might take more like 10 to 15 minutes. Because that kind of, like if you're making it on a cookie sheet, that's great for making a grandma pizza or making like a Sicilian pizza where you let the dough rise up in that pan. That's beautiful. I am going to turn this pizza around. It's looking really good. Only one little piece of it got smushed. That was my fault. All right, when this comes out of the oven, then we're gonna start to do like a pan pizza. Let's get the pan ready. Okay. Okay, it still needs a minute. I just turned a little switch so it'll get hotter on the outside than the center, and that'll hopefully finish. I want to get it a little bit browned. Grace, you're going to have to watch me eat this. It's really sad to me that you can't eat it with me, but it's okay. One day in the future, I'll be back at the Hoboken Library, and then we'll eat pizza together. Another few seconds, and then that's it. And then we're ready to slice it, and I'm ready to eat it. Then we're going to make a pan pizza. Let's give it a little dusting. Oh, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, star-shaped pizza for Grace. I know what you're going to think right now. How do you eat this? I'll show you. Underside of it looks good. Nice char on the outside. And the cheese that was inside the corners is starting to ooze in. It's like a stuffed crust pizza. Oh, the question is, do I recommend buying a timer? Yes. But really, even better than that is just trust yourself. I gotta take a picture. It looks really good. Thrilling television, I know. Okay. Next up, let's eat it. Hot. Awesome. Grace, thanks for that. We all made a star-shaped pizza together. Cool. We weren't even planning on that. All right. Needs salt. Nice. Okay. Okay. How do you transfer the dough if you do not have a scraper? No problem. Spatula? Or I mean, let me know which moment of it are you talking about? Like which moment of the pizza making process? Can it be more like crunchy? Yeah. The longer you bake it, the crunchier it'll get. This one's 2-minute bake, so it's softer. Crisp on the bottom, soft on the inside. Oh, hubba hubba. All right. Pan pizza. Changing the rules. We're not going to stretch it with flour. We're going to use oil. Gotta keep organized over here, you know what I mean? What temp did I cook it? I cooked it at 600 because we were using my fancy oven. But for home oven, 500. Oh, from the table to the stone? Oh, sorry. Okay, if you don't have the peel, that's called the peel, the big, this thing. If you don't have that, let's see. You can use just like a tray. I just have this tray. You can slide it. It's fine. When you slide it, though, you don't want to slide it like this. You slide it like this. It's a whole other thing. If you want a video about that, go to scottspizzatours.com/pizza making. There's a good video about that. Well, let's do a version where you don't have to even worry about stretching it like that. Let's do a version where we just stretch it in the pan. Okay? So it doesn't matter if you put the toppings on after the dough's in the pan. No, it depends on the toppings. If it's a vegetable with a lot of water in it, it's gonna leak. It's gonna break down a lot. So maybe you put it on a little later so it stays a little crunchy. But let's try this. My dough, where'd it go? Aha! You tried to get away, but you couldn't. I'm worried that the dough might be a little too big for this pan, but we'll find out. Now, instead of flour, I'm going to use oil. A little bit of oil in the pan as well. This is going to fry up the bottom of it a little bit. Oh, it's going to be delicious. So, once again, I'm not squishing the dough. I'm allowing it to fall gently into my hand. Oh, yep. Gently into the pan. Perfect. Even better. Once again, I'm not going to push it out. I'm going to push it straight down. Let's use some of this excess oil. This is really good if you like bar pies. You ever been out to Colony Grill in Stamford? You ever go out to Star Tavern in South Orange, East Orange, West Orange, East Orange? Those places do this kind of thing. Now, if you use too much oil, all this dough is going to snap back. So I might have used a little bit too much oil. But I just push it down into the edges of the pan. This pan is not hot. This pan is just normal pan. I don't have my other toppings ready yet, which is okay because this is going to go, it's going to go on top of the oven. Now, at this point, I'm going to turn this oven on. I'm up to like 450, 500. The pan that I'm using, by the way, it's just kind of a weird pan. It's like a pan that it came with a bunch of other pans. It's a weird one that has a detachable handle. It's best to use a pan that has a metal handle. If it's got a plastic handle, you got to finish it on the stove. I'm going to put this into my oven to finish it. If you want to just keep it on the stove top, you can use any pan you want. It doesn't really matter. In fact, sometimes cheaper ones are better. A cast iron pan is not so amazing for it because it doesn't heat up super evenly on top. It doesn't heat up very quickly. So that's why I like a cheap pan like this. But I think it's pretty cool just because it has a handle that attaches. But this is it. If you have any kind of pan that looks like this, you're fine. All right. Let's do it. Remember, I have my sauce from about, 45 minutes ago. Oniony and garlicky, the whole thing. And it's cooled down a little bit, which is fine. Let's go over to the stove. Okay. I want to give you an angle on this so you can actually see it. You're not dealing with the window. Great. What is that? Oh, that's the light. Okay, cool. I'm going to be working mostly on this burner, so let's really give you this. All right, we got the burner on. I'm putting the pan right on top of it. Just the bread. It doesn't have anything else yet. Now we can put this tomato right on it. And I didn't make too much of it. I know we're going to use all of it. The beauty of the pan is that we can sauce and cheese all the way up to the edge, and it's going to be fine. It's not going to fall out of the pan. It's quite beautiful. I'm going all the way to the edge, baby. Just turn down the heat a little tiny bit. Great. Next up, we're going to cheese it. I'm just throwing little bits of low moisture mozzarella. This is paleo. Use whatever you want. I'm using paleo because it's pretty soft. And I'm not worried about if it goes all the way to the edge. In fact, I kind of like that. My oven is on, but we're starting this thing right on top. Then I'm going to stick it in the oven in about maybe 5 minutes. Ooh, I like that bubble. This we can get as cheesy as we want. Wow, that bubble's getting big. So part of why I'm ripping this up by hand is because I just didn't shred it in advance. I probably should have done that, but it's okay. It's just me eating it. Wow, we are just putting like a half a pound of cheese on this, aren't we? All right, toppings. I got that shallot. So if you're still watching from earlier, we had shallot before. Now we got that on there. And I don't know about you, but I've been eating a lot of Spam in quarantine. We're going to use Spam. Not letting anybody give me guff about the Spam. I don't care if it's not Italian. I don't care if it's whatever. It's going to be delicious. Yeah, I like it when I see the cheese on the edge. Ooh, starting to burn a little bit. We got to get it up. Okay. Take a look at it just to see what's going on downstairs. Oh, yeah, baby. Into the oven. Wait. Guys, I think I went about 1 minute too far on that. Listen, while it's in here, oh, now the other oven turned off. Great. Now we can talk like civilized grown-ups. Now we can talk about this. All right. So Elizabeth, I didn't put basil on it because the basil's gonna burn in that oven. I would have put basil on that first one, the star-shaped one, sure. I just don't have any basil. Non-stick pans, yeah, should be okay. Just as long as it doesn't have a plastic handle, you should be okay. So for the burner, I put it on medium, but really I was using kind of a fierce burner, and it started to burn a little bit too much on the bottom. So let's hope that the rest of it's not ruined. We'll see. Or maybe if I see that the bottom is ruined, I just won't show it to you. But it's going to be in this oven for like maybe 8 or 10 minutes. I'm going to try to show it to you. We'll see. And I'm definitely going to want to eat it. This is going to be really fun because we didn't have to preheat the oven. Really, I just turned on the oven when I started stretching the dough. It was kind of fine. And then really most of the action happened when it was on top of the stove. So yeah, fresh spinach, Alexandra. Yes, that would be great. I just didn't have any. What I had was cheese, shallot, and Spam. Don't judge me. All right, if you got any questions, drop them in here right now. I'm going to tidy up a little bit while this hums along. When I said I was going to clean up, what I meant was I was going to eat some of this pizza. Oh, Laura's asking, what does my cap say? Square Pie Guys. It's a pizzeria in San Francisco. I haven't been there yet, but they sent me a hat, so I have their hat. I don't do pizza making birthday parties, but when birthday parties are legal again, sure. Right. I know it's rude to eat in front of all of you, but I can't help it. Grace, you love the Star Pizza? I'm so sorry that you can't eat it. But now you know how to make it at home. Okay. Okay. Let's visit the dough that we made. It's already starting to look like it's getting a little bit gassy. Looking good. We made real pizza dough, everybody. This is no joke. All right, let's see what questions we got. How long can you store pizza dough in the freezer? A month. but it's also going to kill the yeast. So if you're going to make dough and freeze it, you should use a little bit more yeast than you normally would, like 25 to 50% more yeast, and then it'll recover better when you do it the next time. Okay, Kirsten's asking, and when do you put it in there? Oh, in where? Like in the oven? Or in the... I'm not sure what you're asking about, but I'll definitely answer it. Just very a detail. Oh, how long can you freeze it for? Oh yeah, for a month, but I wouldn't do that. I would try to not freeze it at all. Just use the pizza dough. Just have a pizza party for yourself. Okay, I'm gonna check on this pizza. It's looking really good. The cheese has melted, but I want the Spam to brown a little bit, and I want the cheese to start to burn on the edge. Okay, do we need to put this dough in the fridge for a day? Yes, so the dough that we did before, the dough that we just made, we stick it in the refrigerator. If you want to eat it tonight, you can let it sit out, but it's going to taste better if it sits in the refrigerator for 1 or even 2 days. And I put the dough into the fridge right after we made it. We split it, I rolled it up, and we stuck it right in the fridge. Some people like to let it rise before you put it in the fridge, but especially because I used a little too much yeast today, I wanted to get it right in the refrigerator. The cold will slow it down. Let's see, were there other questions? Let's see. You know, we'll take a minute just for a shout out to the Hoboken Public Library for hosting awesome stuff. You got a pizza class happening right now in your home. You didn't have to go anywhere. How awesome is that? And I know a lot of people have been looking at screens a lot lately, and I'm sorry that right now you're still looking at a screen, but it's way better when you got pizza happening. So thank you all for joining, by the way. It's been a blast. My name is Scott, and I'm not signing off just yet. I want to take this pizza out of the oven so you can see it. But I've been coming to Hoboken libraries in person, and then now we're doing these virtual Pizza Fridays. I'm not sure if we're doing one next week, but we'll try to do some in the future. I also have a bunch of virtual tours that I run. I run a company in New York called Scott's Pizza Tours, and we can't run tours of pizzerias right now, so we have virtual tours. You can get to them at my website, is scottspizzatours.com, and my Instagram is Scott's Pizza Tours, and you can use that for all kinds of information about how to make a starter, or how to make pizza, all kinds of stuff on there, all the time. So you'll join me there. Also, keep an eye out for Grace's Pizza Academy. She's going to be teaching people how to make pizza in the shape of fun animals. So keep an eye out for that. Hoboken Public Library is reminding me, yes, I'm also running a campaign right now. I run a nonprofit called Slice Out Hunger, and we have a campaign called Pizza versus Pandemic. And we send pizza to first responders and healthcare workers all around the country. We've sent a bunch in the hospital in Hoboken, and also a shelter in Hoboken. So we do a whole bunch of cool stuff that's throughout the country. If you want to donate to it, go to sliceouthunger.org. And you can donate there, and we are constantly sending pizza. We've sent 10,500 pizzas so far. We've raised how much money? Well, we've spent about $180,000 on pizza. So part of what we're doing is supporting independent pizzerias and also supporting healthcare workers. Let's see. Oh, Chris, you're coming to pizza making? Yeah, I'm doing a pizza making class tomorrow on Zoom, which will be a more in-depth version than what we're doing now. Now I'm trying to give a bigger overview. What I'm doing tomorrow in Zoom is going to be more, because that's a ticketed event. This is open to the whole Hoboken Public Library public. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit more information about specifically like why we're doing certain things. And also we'll be able to interact more, because on Zoom we'll have video interaction. So you can say like, hey, what's up? Instead of me having to try to clean off my hands from pizza dough and scroll on the computer. So I hope that answers the question, Chris. It will be worth it. I think it's worth, this is awesome because this is free. And it's not like we're making fake pizza right now. We're making real pizza. Let me check the oven. Cool. I'm going to give it one more minute, and I'm actually switching it to broil just so I can get some color on top. I am so hungry, even though I already ate 2 slices of star-shaped pizza from Grace. All right, I'm going to use a really cool pizza plate for the next pizza. All right, let's get you into a good position for this. The landing of the final pizza. Oh, how do you reheat pizza? Frying pan, baby. Frying pan. You get the frying pan on like medium, drop the slice in there, bottoms down, heat that up for about a minute, flip it over, face down. I know it sounds weird, but it works. I love it. When this comes out of the oven, you better believe I'm hitting it with pepper flakes. Crushed pepper, baby. And a little bit of grated cheese, but let's use Parmigiano if we have it. Ooh. Looks really good. Same dough, totally different pizza. It should slide right out of there. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, dang. With this beautiful caramelized cheese crust. But I'm going to hit it with a little bit of the chili flakes, crushed red pepper. And then some Parmigiano Reggiano. This is a grittier, like a bar pie. Same dough, though. Okay, let's see. Where are you ordering your pizza supplies? Ooh, good question. A lot of different places to get it. But most of it is just, you can get it in a grocery store, or any of the grocery delivery companies have this kind of stuff. Oh, no. Okay. This will be sharper than the other cheese that we used. Oh, it looks gorgeous. I want to crisp it up a little bit. The bottom feels like it's too soft, but still looks really nice. There. Now I got to take a picture. Oh, yeah. Oh, this looks so good. Sorry that you guys have to sit there while I take these pictures. You can't even watch me eat it yet. I don't know which is more torture. Okay, and this cooked for 10 or 12 minutes. Let's see. Okay, let's cut it up. If you were a pizza slicer, where would you be? All right, we're just gonna have to use another pizza slicer. Good thing I have one. Okay, now we eat it. Totally different pizza. Pan pizza baked on the stovetop, then finish it off in the oven. A little bit, oozing spam everywhere. There it is, a little bit charred on the bottom. Oh, yeah, that's the one. When you put the pizza on gas, was it on medium or high flame? Oh, on the top, medium. But my medium was a little too hot, so that's why I got a little bit of this. Some people like that. I mean, I'm into it. I'm okay with it right now. Okay, listen. This has been delicious. But I gotta clean it up. I made a mess. Thank you to the Hoboken Public Library. Thank you to everybody for sticking out for like an hour and 45 minutes. That's wild. But all that happened here. We made dough. We made two totally different styles of pizza. We made Grace's star-shaped pizza. We made pizza on the stovetop and then into the oven for a finish. You don't need fancy equipment. Look, this is a celebration. Go and celebrate. Enjoy yourself. Have a pleasant weekend. Stay safe. This is Scott Wiener signing off on behalf of the Hoboken Public Library.